Hello and welcome back to my garden. Today we're going to be touring the flower garden because we haven't toured the flower garden yet this year, and we got a bunch of rain last night, and I think it's spitting out. It's not quite raining, but it is a little damp out and very humid. Anyways, let's get touring. Right here is the dahlia bed. If you're new to the channel, I have a bed in the flower garden dedicated just to named dahlias. So I have dahlias growing from seed elsewhere in the flower garden and elsewhere in the garden as a whole, but here are all my named varieties. And I did a video recently talking about what I did in renewing this bed, preparing this bed for planting this year, and what survived from last year into this year. And so far everything looks pretty good. I had one problem with one of the dahlias where it looked like the deer pulled it out of the ground. That's in a pot, and I put another division tuber into the ground over here. Not going to show you guys really anything close up because there's really nothing to look at this point. But things are looking okay here. Now, hopefully by the time the summer rolls around, let's say late June, early July, these plants are a lot bigger and maybe even flowering. And then we can take a closer look at what's happening here. Right over here, I have my basil experiment. I'm growing basil out here in the flower garden for the bees because the bees love the basil flowers. I can obviously pick and eat off of all this if I wanted to. There's nothing special here, but I am growing two different varieties. I have the dark opal basil and the Genovese basil. When I planted them out, I did a sort of a checkerboard pattern, which I think as the plants are getting bigger, you guys can see. So it looks kind of interesting, and I think it'll be even more fun in another month or so when these plants get much larger and you really get to see that sort of checkerboard pattern just a little more clearly. Right up front here, it's a bit of a disappointment, I guess, and I'm not sure why, but this happened to me last year as well. I planted a lot of Sweet William up front here, and the deer have pulled out a couple, but there's still 5 or so remaining here. They're alive, they're just not thriving, and they're not growing maybe as quickly as I expect them to grow. Sweet William is a new plant to me, so if you guys have experience growing Sweet William, please let me know what your experiences are so far as it growing and thriving and spreading, because in my mind it should be a whole lot bigger than it is now because they're still very tiny plants. In the black circular rings right here, I have the Bear's Breeches that I'm growing as well in a pot over by the back deck there. And the deer have actually come and nibbled on them, which is odd because they're supposed to be very deer resistant. But obviously my deer, again, have not read the manual, so they've been nibbled on. Both plants are still alive. Hopefully, maybe with the deer nibbling on them and with all the rain we've been getting lately, they will just spurt to life. They're supposed to get to like this big across and then 4 to 5 feet tall. So we will wait and see how that works out. In the back over here, you can see I have my hardy banana tree. It's doing quite well, and it is loving the rain that we've been having. I haven't killed it yet, so I'm pretty happy and surprised about that. Up front over here, I have my pink goblin Veronica. The deer came by and gave it a bit of a prune to make sure it stayed low growing. It's still alive and thriving, doing well. Back over here is another deer-resistant plant, my cup plant. Yeah, the deer have nibbled on that. Thankfully, they haven't really taken it down lower, so that's an upside. They have nibbled on many of the leaves. Back over here I have some carrots that I planted into the ground, and the deer surprisingly have not nibbled on the carrots as much as I thought they would. I planted them there for the flowers, and we will see what happens in the upcoming months. Right along the side over here is some mums, chrysanthemums that I planted out. Really the star of the show with this area right here are these 2 Russian sages. They are flowering, looking fantastic, looking awesome. Back over here, I have an ironweed, and the plant is okay, even after being nibbled on by the deer. And then, of course, I have my canna up front. Now, these canna, along with many of the other cannas that I have here in the garden, will be coming out of the ground this year. I do like the canna, but unfortunately, they're so vigorous growing and thuggish, they wind up pushing other plants out. They push into the growing spaces of other plants. They grow very rapidly. So I think I'll be pulling them out. Maybe I'll leave 1 or 2 rhizomes in, maybe 1 rhizome. I don't know. I'll figure it out when I do it. Up front here, a couple of badly eaten pineapple lilies. I think what I'm going to do with them is give up on trying to keep them out here in the flower garden, dig them up, and then maybe grow on 1 or 2 in a pot up on the back deck where the deer can't get to them. All along here are my irises, various different varieties of irises, all bearded iris. And then interplanted amongst them, I have many salvia. Salvia, I don't think are going to do anything this year, and they're very tiny right now still. So we'll have to wait and see how they grow over the year, what survives, and then hopefully next year, many of them come back up and really start to fill this space in amongst all of the irises. Earlier this year, we did have many of these irises flower, not all of them, because many of these were divisions that I did last, I think it was like July or August, can't remember. If you guys do remember, you can leave those comments below. And then scattered along the very back are several small Yupon hollies. Now these are the native Yupon hollies, not the dwarf variety, and they will grow, if left unchecked, 15-20 feet tall. I will probably grow them to about 6 foot tall over the course of the next 10 years or so. If they survive this year, then theoretically next year they can put on as much as 2 foot of growth a year, which is pretty impressive. So 2, 4, 6, that'd be 3 years. So theoretically in 3, maybe 4 years, they'll be about 6 foot tall and hopefully just as wide. And then that'll be forming a hedge line that I've always been wanting back here along the back of the flower garden border. In the very back over here, I have the rose mint agastache. Last year they didn't look like much, but this year they're growing in, they're filling in, and they're obviously flowering. The bees are absolutely loving these things right now, which is awesome. Then we have some peonies. They flowered this spring after their transplanting last year, which is not supposed to happen. Theoretically, you transplant a peony and then you don't expect to see a flower for another 2 to 3 years, and then they flower. But this year they flowered right after the transplant, which, hey, I'm happy about. Okay, I had to pause there for a minute because it started to drizzle and the camera's not waterproof. Behind me here is a white licorice agastache. This will probably wind up digging up and transplanting either towards the back of the border or somewhere else in the flower garden here later this year. But over here are a couple more, and they are looking awesome. Behind all of them is my Salvia Amistad, and yeah, it looks like it's doing okay. I haven't killed it yet. We'll keep an eye on it this year though. Next to it is Standing Cypress. Flower I've never grown before. Appears to be alive, appears to be doing anything. I sowed some seeds in the ground. I didn't even bother thinning it out, so it looks very congested, but we will see what it does later in the year. Hopefully it does throw up some sort of flower spike, which is what I think it's supposed to do. And a tall one at that, which is why it's planted towards the back of the border. Right here in front of me is my Lucifer crocosmia, and some of these are starting to flower, which is really awesome. And one of the things I like about the crocosmia is even as the flower buds are coming in, they look pretty awesome. They look pretty fun and cool, and they're little reds and oranges and yellows, and then they pop open to these wonderful red flowers. Hopefully over the next few weeks all this starts happening. We will see. Over here I have some Blue Victory salvias which I planted. These guys are little, but hopefully again they get pretty tall, and behind them I have more of the licorice white agastache. Now I did plant a few more licorice white agastaches in and amongst these, but hopefully over the next year or so they'll grow just as big and wonderful as these guys. And right here next to the bench I have a rose mint agastache, looking pretty awesome, and the bees absolutely love the flowers on this one as well. Right up front over here, I have Queen Mum agapanthus. Now I divided this plant last year. I don't expect any of these to really put up flower shoots this year because, again, they were divided last year. So, but if they do, it'll be awesome. Then I've got some daisies, and I have a bunch of foxgloves. Now, many of these foxgloves did flower this year, and I've already been spreading the seed because they've gone over. So I spread the seed out, and hopefully next year they'll be at even more flowers. These Blue Victory salvias are doing well considering they're in quite a bit of shade. I'm thinking about maybe again digging these up and transplanting them to a sunnier spot elsewhere in the garden so that they fill out even more, because I think that's kind of what's holding them back, is maybe a lack of sunshine. But they are flowering, the bees do love them, and they're doing okay here in the shade. We're right up in front here. I have Blazing Star Liatris, and that should be going to flower any minute now because it's putting on buds, which is going to be pretty exciting. Up front, still alive, are my Canterbury Bells. If they survive this year and they come back up next year, because I believe they're biennial, that big word. They'll flower next year. Some daisies right here at my heels. Over here, I have Valencia calla lily. They're looking great, and the deer don't eat the flowers. Back in here, I have a bunch of different snapdragons. They're not doing so great, and I'm not 100% sure why, but they're still alive, so we'll take that as a win. Coneflower, which the deer have eaten back several times, and sea holly over here. Now, the sea holly is pretty tough, and it can take quite a bit of abuse. Take drought, take flooding, and it can take the deer nibbling on it occasionally. There's one plant here that's flowering now, so hopefully it goes to seed, and then within a year or so, I'll have a whole bunch more sea holly growing right here. Back behind this red hot poker, I have a Toucan Scarlet Cana. That's a proven winner's variety, and that one will be staying in the garden because it does not spread really at all. It's been very tame. As you can see right here, my red hot poker doing quite well. We'll come back and do some deadheading maybe later tonight and or tomorrow. Cut it back and it just throws up another flower spike, which I really appreciate. Right here in this corner, I have lots of things going on. I have my snapdragons coming up, which is fabulous. I think for some of them, this is a second flush of flowers, which is awesome. Again, along the front, I have some Sweet Williams. This one over here looks like it's been nibbled on by the deer. That's okay. I have several Maltese Cross. I don't expect much from them this year, but hopefully they do grow up. The deer don't bother the Maltese Cross. Don't know why. And hopefully they wind up seeding in this area as well. Again, doing a nice little clump. The Cana back there will go away. And I think it's in shot, but I have the new rope top edging that I did recently. I'll be talking more about that in detail and how I make them and why I'm going to concrete edging and in another video. Right in this corner here, I had all my Dutch irises, and I've cut all the stems back because they had all gone over. It's a plant that grows from it's an iris that grows from a bulb, and they look wonderful in the springtime, add a lot of color to the space. And in and amongst them, I planted in a bunch of Sweet Williams and up front a few Batoni. They're all very small right now, but hopefully, I'm really hoping and praying that these things just basically explode and fill in this whole space with beautiful looking plants. Cana, which is going. This right here is my Easter Candy Bearded Iris. And in amongst the leaves, I found another pine tree. Flowered this spring, looking quite nice. This plant has been here a few years. I don't think I'm going to be dividing it this year, but maybe next year. I have the red hot poker here. I believe this one's called Lucky or Lucky Girl, something along those lines. I do like the lighter color, the white and the green flowers right there. This space right in here has probably been, it's been a riot of colors so far. Right up front, I have the May Night Salvia. It survived many years out here, including tropical storms, droughts, and whatever the natural disasters we've had, including hard freezes. It's going to flower. Many of the flowers are going over, so I'll probably have to do a deadheading, and it'll probably reflush the flowers. I'm thinking again in the fall, if I'm not mistaken with this variety. In the back over here, I have the Maltese Cross, and it puts out these really bright red flowers, which I really like. I see a couple of smaller plants around, so hopefully they are self-seeding and they'll come up. Right here I have the drumstick alliums, and these guys are doing fabulous. These are the only alliums that I have growing successfully anywhere in the garden. They're small, they put on these small little drumstick heads. Right here I have a gladiolus. I have many gladiolus here in the garden, and fortunately this year the deer have been nibbling at the flowers. Thankfully, the gladiolus have not thrown up all their flower spikes at the same time. So I have some ones that are coming up now. So hopefully we get some nice color out of that. I do have others that are flowering right now, which you'll see in a few minutes. Foxglove, which has gone over already. This foxglove is in full sun. I cannot remember the variety of foxglove, but it's in full sun all day long. And it's done well. It's self-seeded around. I have a bunch of baby foxgloves in here that I'm probably gonna pull out because I don't want them to overcrowd. That's, you know, that's a good problem to have, but I'll leave many of the others, so then next year this whole space should be filled up with a whole lot more foxgloves. This variety of Cana, I have no idea what it is, and it is flowering. Sadly, one of the things I do not like about Cana flowering is that they look a bit messy as the flowers expend themselves, but they'll keep reflowering basically all summer long, which is awesome. Over here I had several large poppy plants, and you probably still see one that's still kind of flowering a little bit, which is awesome. So the color of the calla lilies and the red poppies, this was quite a riot of color just a few weeks ago. Sadly, the poppies are going over, and I'll be cutting the rest of these poppies out soon. Right in the back over here, a few years back, I purchased a Speedy Sonnet Yellow Snapdragon. But it is flowered, it is seeded, and now I have a bunch of them coming up. I also have some of the Tetra Mix Snapdragons coming up, which is fabulous. Over here is one of my larger clumps of gladiolus. And unfortunately, there's only a couple of flowers on this clump because, again, the deer have been coming in here eating the flowers, which is something that they have never done before. Very unusual, but you can see from the couple of flowers that I do have, wonderful colors. Over here, right up front here, I have my mixed dahlia collection. So hopefully we get some flowers out of them later this month, and then hopefully right on through till the frost. The canna here in the back corner, they're all coming out this year. Though I do enjoy the height and I do like the flowers again, they are getting very big, they're getting very thuggish, and they're going to start overwhelming the space. By next year, they'll be double the size. Behind them though, I have some dahlias that I started from seed. They're growing. They're still small, but they're growing. And hopefully by the end of the summer, they're at least the height of this Alaska Shasta Daisy. This Alaska Shasta Daisy it's the star of the show in this corner. You can see how large it is. They put on a good amount of flowers. It looks like this plant is a little further behind than this plant, which is fine. It's got buds and they'll be opening up anytime now. This is the oldest clump of licorice white agastache that I have. You can see how tall it is, and it is absolutely crawling with bees right now, which is fantastic. There are some gladiolus coming into flower all around in here. And then of course here at the end, I have a clump of 2 different varieties of red hot pokers. They're looking wonderful, and these gladiolus, they are just incredible. Really can't get over their colors that they put on. And hopefully the deer leave some of these alone so we can enjoy them. Gladiolus don't flower very long, maybe only about a month, month and a half. But for that month, month and a half, they really do put on a spectacular show. So one more thing I want to show you guys. Not part of the flower garden, part of actually the vegetable garden, but these daylilies safely behind this fence, away from the deer, the marauding deer, are putting on quite the show. It's starting to rain, and it is really hot out here, and the camera's about to overheat and explode. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Click that bell icon to be notified when I do post a new video. There's always something happening here and around the garden. So with all that being said, it's starting to rain now. So I'm gonna grab the camera, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.